Welcome to Thoughtful Planning, the place where real conversation, expert insight, and a touch of humor meet to turn our end-of-life uncertainties into self-assurance. I'm your co-host, Santiago, a history buff and a big kid at heart.
And I'm Honey, your guide through the intricate dance of planning with care and a whole lot of warmth. Every week, we're here to turn those intimidating "are we ready" moments into confident, everything is under control moments. Today's journey is one you won't want to miss. Hi, welcome to Thoughtful Planning. I'm Honey. So today I'll be recording solo since Santiago is out of town, and I'll be sharing a personal story of a journey that I've been on. So before I go any further, the essential question is, would you prepare your own obituary, eulogy, and funeral presentation? All right. So to be honest, even as a planner, this felt something like I thought my family should handle, right? But after we interviewed Anna Adams, founder of the International Doula Life Movement, in episode number 21, I signed up to become a death doula, and this led me to rethink my role in planning my own farewell. So one of the death doula classes that I'm in is on planning. And it takes us on this really deep dive of all the things you can think of for planning for emergencies or end of life. It's a really great class. And 3 of our assignments consisted of writing our own obituary, eulogy, and funeral presentation. So let's talk about writing my own obituary. So our instructor, she provided a helpful template for us to use and a lot of funny examples. And I think she did that because it's a hard topic, right? It's hard to write or even think about writing your own obituary. Some of the things that some of the people said was like, I'm obviously alive, so what do I put for the date at the end? So for me, I put TBD, to be determined. But some people, it could be very stressful to think about this topic. It's very heavy. So I liked how our instructor provided funny examples of obituaries. You can go on YouTube, probably Google like YouTube humorous obituary videos or newspaper articles and so forth. And that way, when you start to write your own, if you do decide, then maybe that will help with that a little bit of a heaviness with the writing. All right. And she also shared some practical tips for us to keep the costs down. If you're thinking about putting this in the newspaper, honestly, the newspaper thinks of this as a big moneymaker for them, right? Because when people die, they might post about their obituary in the paper. Now, you don't have to do that, but some people do that. And the longer it is, the more words it is, the more expensive it's going to be. And the costs will add up really fast. So you want to be careful if you are going to post in a newspaper. Now, personally, I would rather my family not even post anything in the paper and just do something that's digital, online. I hear that funeral homes allow obituaries on their sites. Now, with anything that you do online, you'll always want to make sure what is the cost of this and so forth. For my family, my intent is low cost. So, and make it be a single cost because some of these places charge recurring monthly fees. Okay. I don't want that. So I'm making everyone aware to ask those questions, right? Ask your loved ones what they want for their obituary. And honestly, it's the ones who are left behind who have to pay the bills unless it comes out of their estate. For me personally, again, keeping costs down is what I prefer. And nowadays on social media, you could post my obituary on there and share that. And then that's it. That's done. Okay. Now, if writing the obituary sounds like super overwhelming or super heavy, there are actually people out there that will write them for you if you didn't know that. Reach out to me if you are interested. I know a person, of course, they were actually a guest on one of our podcasts. She'll be starting to do this very soon if she hasn't started already. She did our podcast on, I can't remember the title, but it's about laughter, right? Having a sense of humor. And Her name is Robin Johnson. So I will link that in the show notes to that episode so you can take a listen to that one. But at that time of that podcast, she wasn't offering that as a service yet, but now she is going to be doing that anytime soon. Okay. Out of all the 3 assignments we had to do, that one for me was the simplest. It's simply listing out facts about the person's life and family. So really simple. And I actually used, if you've ever heard of a program or a software called Canva, they do have a free version. I have a paid version, but anyway, on the free version, you can do a lot of things. Anyway, if you get Canva, you can do a search for obituary templates and then see what is available to you. And then you can use that for writing your obituary. But remember, you want to keep those costs down. So limiting the words and any kind of artwork, like if you're putting that in a newspaper, I'm sure that would be very expensive if you added artwork or designs in there. So keep it, just think about all those things and keep it to where you want it to be for your budget. All right. So now let's talk about the eulogies. So that was our second assignment. And I was finding myself a bit stuck on this one because the reason why is I thought that maybe my family would be the ones that would do that for me. They would be the ones that would stand up in front of everyone and talk about me or my life or what I did and so forth. So I really didn't expect to be writing my own eulogy. And so, yeah, I was a bit stuck on that. And what was helpful was our teacher, she gave us an example in class she showed a video, and it was of a man who gave his own eulogy. And so I thought, oh, I think I could do that. I can do that. But again, I was still a little bit stuck in what am I going to say and so forth. So anyhow, one night, it was like 1 a.m, our dog Tex had to go to the bathroom. And so I was out there in the backyard with him while he's messing around out there, just goofing around. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, like a bunch of stories just started coming to me. So I got my phone and I started voice recording these stories. And then the next day, what I did is I pieced all the stories together to make them in sequential order and had a nice flow to them. And then I actually started practicing these stories, telling the stories, because I was trying to get an idea of a time, like how long this was taking. And our teacher suggested that we keep the eulogy to 10 minutes or less. So that's what I wanted to do. And so it was very helpful for me to talk it out loud first, gauge myself on the time. And then I started, okay, I'm not going to do that story. I'm not going to do that story, but I'll do this one and so forth. So in the end, basically 10 minutes goes by really fast. So I basically ended up just having a short story about my family as a whole and things we've done and things I've done that maybe people don't know about. And also specific stories, which this one was really hard when I had to record this part in the eulogy when I specifically was talking to my husband and each one of my kids. They each had their own little section. And I did start to get emotional with that. Maybe have some tissues nearby, and you'll want to practice, and it helps to practice so you can work through some of that. That was very helpful for me to do. Now, when I shared my eulogy with my class, what they said that they liked was the fact that I made it interactive. So it was as if I was literally up there in front of them, and I was asking them questions and having them setting a pause for people to maybe answer back, if not out loud in their mind, the answer to the question. And then I would proceed with the story. So that's how I did that. And like I said, my classmates liked how I made that interactive. And at the very end, they said their most favorite part of the eulogy was at the very end. So if anyone wants to use this, there was a point in time where I used to teach fitness classes, and at the end of my classes, we would do a deep breath in, and then you're lifting your hands up, and then exhale, wrap your hands around you to give yourself a big hug, pat on the back, good job, stuff like that. So anyway, at the end of my eulogy, I basically ask everyone to stand if they were able, take a deep breath in, lifting their hands up, wrapping their arms around them. And that was a hug from me to them. That's how I ended it. Now if any of my family is listening now, they're going to know what that ending looks like. But anyway, So that gives you some ideas. Now, also what I did is because I recorded this actually in my podcast studio, and then I downloaded that video to my desktop. And then from there, I uploaded it to Google Drive. And in my Google Drive, I created a legacy funeral folder. And within that folder, I have my obituary. Now I have my eulogy and actually my presentation, which I'll talk about next. But in each of these has a link that's shareable. So all of that is now uploaded to my Google Drive folder, which I will share with my family so they will have it readily available when the time comes. Let's see here. Now, the third assignment, I completely misunderstood the assignment. And I was actually the only one who misunderstood the assignment out of our whole class. There's like over 20 of us. But it was actually a good thing for me to misunderstand it. My mind was thinking of a presentation. And when I talk about presentation, you've probably been to funerals where they have a slideshow of photos going across of their loved ones, their family. And so that's what I created, was my own video presentation, also uploading audio to that video presentation. And I selected an instrumental song that wasn't too sappy. I didn't want it to be sad if I could try to keep it as like a upbeat as I could, but it's not super upbeat. But anyway, so within that started, with the eulogy, let's talk about that. In the eulogy, it was limited on time of 10 minutes, right? So I could really only talk about really my husband, and my kids and my pets, my dogs. But in the presentation, I had a little more time because I wasn't actually talking, that I can add more intimate photos or even documentation. I documented different stories, like for my mom or my dad or my grandma, my aunt, my uncle, my sister, my brother, like all the different family members started to include those. I, of course, included my husband and my kids in the presentation as well. And also what I did is if I didn't know people's favorite colors, I was texting them, asking them, hey, what are your favorite colors? Because I wanted to make sure that their slide was personalized to them. So they knew that I was really thinking about them when I made that presentation. And so that is basically what I did for the presentation. And that came out to be like 61 pages or slides is what it came out to be. And what was also very helpful, because I did this now, I was aware that maybe there's some photos that I would like with certain people that I didn't have. So now I can be very intentional about getting those photos and then updating my presentation. All right. And I actually built out my presentation in Canva. I mentioned that's where I did my obituary, but that's also where I built out my presentation. If you have Canva, you can go look in there and do a search for, a presentation. They have templates available for you in there that you can use. And I specifically use, I believe, the photo book presentation. So you can look for something on there and try that if you'd like. Now, what the assignment actually was to be a timeline of events of the actual funerals. When is it going to start? And who is going to be the MC? And a lot of people, there's actually an event planner in our class, and she was very specific on the timeline of this happens at this time and this happens at that time and so forth. So as people did talk and share their ideas about what their expectations were for their funeral, I jotted some of those ideas down so that I was creating my own timeline of events during the class while the class was going. And like some people had some really good examples. I don't think I would do a lot of these things here, but I'll just say what they are in case you might be interested in some of them. But some people mentioned that they would have fireworks at theirs or doves releasing. One person, which I think I might try this idea, is little cards that she's going to put on the tables for when they go to dinner or lunch or their meal that they're going to have. And each little card is going to have a different phrase. It's going to start off with a phrase. For example, one might say, I remember when, and then she's hoping that the guests will fill it in with the story, right? Or another caption she had was, my favorite memory with, and then another one is, when we were kids, we. So those are just a few ideas if that helps you with your planning. And what she did is she created like a box, or she said she was going to have this box so that at when people were done writing their stories, they would drop the stories in the box so that in a year later, the family can go and start reading the stories to help them process and remember their loved one. Because sometimes some of us don't know how we impacted other people. And so it's nice to read those stories. Another person said the same thing, like there was a lot of talk about stories. And the reason why is I learned that stories help us with our grief, right? So if we can encourage writing stories, this will help everyone in the grieving process. And anyway, another person had said, like with those stories, what they were going to do was have a bonfire and have everyone, you write your story and you throw it in the bonfire. And then it goes up, and then your loved one who passed now can read that story or know what that story was. Someone else said that they would put their stories in their casket with their loved one. So that is another one. Another person mentioned this, which I thought was great. If you collect things, so if you're a collector of books, for example, they want all their books taken to their funeral, and they want all of the people that attend the funeral to take a book with them. Just something for them to remember their loved one with. It doesn't have to be a book, right? It could be whatever you collect, right? It could be Beanie Babies, right? Toys, if you're a toy collector, whatever, just take it all to the funeral, and everyone takes one as like a parting gift, I guess, if you want to say. So anyhow, that is what I did for my presentation. Now, that was actually the fourth presentation I've done. So I've also done video presentations before. One was for my dog, Max. One was for my dog, Rex. And then one was for my aunt. Now, those presentations were not 61 pages, right? So I'm saying that because I don't want you to think, oh no, like I don't have time to do 61 pages. No, it doesn't have to be 61 pages. It could be whatever you want it to be, your presentation. You don't even have to have a presentation. You can actually do like a scrapbook if you like to scrapbook, or some people were saying that they were going to bring like a poster board and tell people to bring photos with them. And that way they could put their photo on the poster board and then share a story about the photo if they would like to share a story. So those are some ideas on that. Another thing, what I did was I created a small design. So imagine like a bookmark size. And that has my photo on it. And then it has QR codes, which you can also build out in Canva as a QR code. But anyhow, one of the QR codes linked to my eulogy, and then the other QR code links to my presentation. So that way anyone can take that home with them later, and they can watch it later if they chose to. Now, another thing I forgot to say about the presentation is, even though it's a video, it's moving along with pictures and so forth. What I also did within there is there was some instances with different family members that I might have had a video of me with that family member. So I created QR codes and put them in there within that presentation. So they can also access videos within that video presentation. All right. So now I'm actually considering hosting a workshop where I would guide you through creating your own presentation, or offering templates for those who prefer a do-it-yourself approach. Or if you're too busy, you can actually hire me to do it for you if you'd like. It's something I am thinking about a lot because I enjoy doing that kind of thing. And yeah, I'd like to offer that if anyone is interested. So if you are, you can email me at info@legacytoolkit.com or send me a DM. All right, so let's go back to that essential question. Would you prepare your own obituary, eulogy, and funeral presentation? Remember, this is your farewell, a chance for closure for your loved ones. And in the end, I see this as a gift to my family. One last act of love and care. And if you need help, you can always hire someone to help you with all of those things that I talked about. So until next time, remember, every chapter you write today shapes your legacy tomorrow. Thank you for joining me at Thoughtful Planning. And just like the vibrant hues of a setting sun, we're wrapping up another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Every shared story and insight is a step closer to turning uncertainty into celebrations of preparedness.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, remember that every surprise that comes our way is an opportunity to grow, adapt, and learn. Stay tuned for more stories, expert insight, and of course, a touch of wit in our next episode.
We're not just co-hosts, we're fellow travelers on this journey. For more information on additional resources, which will help you take the next step in planning, look for the link in the show notes for our membership. Join us next time for another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Until then, keep living, laughing, and loving every moment.